My name is Chloe Rowe, 36 years old. I was standing at Gate B14 at San Francisco International when the airline agent informed me that my business class ticket had been canceled. My mother turned to me with a cold smile and said loudly, "Have fun walking home, you pathetic loser. Don't ruin your cousin's wedding." My father added with contempt, "Take the bus. Know your fucking place. You're nothing but a burden." My Aunt Marion laughed while holding my mother's arm. The rest of my family was checking in their 8 business class tickets, the ones I had booked and paid for through my corporate account. Laughing and taking photos like I was already forgotten. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I simply took out my phone, made one call, and said quietly, "Revoke all corporate comps for the entire group, immediately." 10 minutes later, the airline agent returned, looking nervous, and announced to my entire family, "There's been a major change. All your business class upgrades have been canceled." Their faces turned pale. They still had no idea who truly controlled everything. Drop a comment if you've ever been treated like trash by the people you quietly carried. Subscribe for the full story. The Sunday morning I lost my seat at Gate B14 started with a rule I had kept for 8 years. No news, no calls, no notifications before 6 a.m. on an international travel day. I drank 1 cup of black coffee at the window in my apartment on Russian Hill, watched the fog move across the marina, and let the day arrive in its own time. That rule died at 6:02 when my Aunt Marion sent me a text that opened with the word "sweetheart." I had a wedding to attend that Friday. My cousin Ashley was marrying a Ricci, Marco Ricci, of Tenuta Ricci Sangiovese, 6 generations of vineyard just outside Montalcino. The estate had been my top 3 distribution partner at Cascadia Beverage Group since 2018, when I first flew to Tuscany as a junior associate, and Signora Cristina Ricci decided I was the person she wanted her wine to travel with in the United States. I sell wine for a living, or, more accurately, I introduce old land to new tables. Some of those tables belong to Michelin restaurants along the West Coast. Some of them belong to families who wouldn't know a Sangiovese from a Cabernet. And some of them, I would come to understand that Sunday don't deserve the introduction at all. At 6 a.m., I put a Ricci Sangiovese 2015 Reserva into my cabin bag, wrapped in a gray silk scarf. Signora Cristina had gifted it to me my 2nd year with the estate, when the harvest had been dry and the wine had come out sharper than she wanted, and she poured me a glass and asked me what I thought. I told her it tasted like a woman who had been asked to smile in the wrong weather. She laughed. She hasn't stopped sending me the special bottles since. That one, I was planning to open at the welcome dinner on Friday. I put on a Navy Theory blazer and tied my hair low. I read Marion's text once and did not answer. "Sweet Chloe, are you already at the gate? Long flight ahead. Don't forget to eat something." Marion doesn't ask questions like a normal aunt. She asks them like a woman confirming a location on a map she has already drawn. I got to SFO by 6:30. My name badge from the corporate travel account was already tucked into my blazer pocket where it lives. Cascadia Beverage Group, Rowe, Chloe M., distribution partner of record, Tenuta Ricci Sangiovese. It is not a title I show off. It is a title that shows up on invoices, contracts, comp requests, and the manifest of every flight I book for anyone in my life, including the 8 business class tickets my family was about to check in that morning, including the 12 rooms at Villa Ricci for wedding week, including the ground transportation, the welcome dinner, and every bottle of wine that would be poured at Ashley's reception. None of them knew. That was the arrangement I had chosen. Ashley had called me in tears the previous December after her mother told her the wedding budget was $5,000 and her father, Marion's ex-husband George Preston up in Reno, had stopped returning calls. Ashley didn't want to ask Marco for more. She didn't want to admit her family couldn't afford the estate his family had grown up on. So she asked me, Or, more precisely, she cried into the phone at 9 in the evening and said she couldn't do it. And I said the only thing that came naturally to me. Let me handle it. Just show up beautiful. I know the estate. I know the family. I didn't tell my mother. I didn't tell Marion. I didn't tell anyone. I told Signora Cristina, and she said in the calm voice she uses for both wine and weather, "So we will make a wedding, my daughter. But you will be my guest of honor. That is my condition." I agreed. I did not think, on that Sunday morning in April, that I would need to remember our agreement. I did. At 6:38, my family arrived at the terminal. I saw them before they saw me, my mother in her camel coat, my father in the same navy sport jacket he had worn to my college graduation, and Marion between them, laughing at something no one had said out loud. Ashley wasn't with them. She was flying separately from Napa, a later connection. Two of my parents' friends from Roseville were pulling wheeled suitcases and looking around like they didn't quite believe they were about to fly business class to Rome. My mother had told them, at church last month, that the trip was her doing. I moved my coffee to my left hand and looked out the window. I had already been the extra chair at the family table for a long time. Christmas 2019 was the first time I really counted the seats. I was 30. I had been promoted at Cascadia 6 months earlier. Associate director, my first real seat at a room with a door. And I had chosen not to make a fuss about it because my mother had said, at Thanksgiving, that Ashley's applications to graduate school were the family news. I paid for Christmas dinner that year. Catering from a restaurant where I placed my accounts. $1,850 on my card, delivered to the house in Roseville that I had helped my parents buy with $185,000 of down payment cash. I handed my mother an envelope in the kitchen. $8,500 to cover 2 months of mortgage while my father waited for a bonus that wouldn't arrive. She opened it, put it in a drawer, and did not say thank you. At the gift exchange that evening, Ashley opened a box the size of a small television. My mother and Marion had gone in together on a Louis Vuitton Neverfull GM. Brown and orange wrapping, tissue paper coming out like sea foam. The receipt Ashley later texted me by accident said $1,800. Ashley made a sound I hadn't heard her make before. Half laugh, half disbelief, half embarrassment. Then my mother handed me a small tissue-wrapped shape. Inside was a MAC Ruby Woo lipstick. $12. My mother, without looking up, said, "Sweetheart, we know you have everything already. This is just a little something." Marion, from her armchair, added, "Ashley's still building her collection, you know how it is." Ashley looked at me the way you look at someone whose seat has just been removed from a room, and she didn't know how to give it back. I never asked for the seat. Mother's Day, 2021, was the year I stopped asking. I had booked Auberge du Soleil, 4 seats, from March. My mother, Marion, my grandmother Ruth, if she'd been alive to come. She wasn't. We had lost her in November of 2018. And me. That was the version I had built in my head. My mother called me at 9 that Sunday morning to tell me that she and Marion were already in Napa. Marion had suggested a spontaneous overnight, my mother said, in the voice she uses when the word spontaneous is doing more work than it should. They were doing a tasting at Domaine Carneros. I could meet them if I insisted. The tasting room was full. I sat in my car in front of my apartment for 40 minutes. Then I drove to Auberge, took the reservation for 4, told the hostess that the other 3 had been unavoidably detained, and let the server pour for 1 person. I ate the whole tasting menu. I drank the wine to the last swallow. I did not text my mother that night. My grandmother Ruth had a way of watching family gatherings from her armchair without saying much. The last time I saw her, at my parents' house in the summer of 2018, 3 months before she died, she took my wrist when I was clearing her plate, and she said, very quietly, "Chloe, watch which sister smiles when you're excluded." I asked her what she meant. She said, "You'll know when you need to." I thought she meant Marion in some vague way. I did not think she meant Marion in every way. October 2023, my 34th birthday. I worked until 9:30 at my office in Soma. I ate a container of Pad CU at my desk. At 10:15, my mother sent me a text. "Oh no, Chloe honey, was that today?" Ashley's engagement party was in Sonoma and time flew. Marion said Ashley wanted us there. Happy belated. I did not reply. I opened my laptop and transferred $12,000 to my mother's checking to cover the third quarter estimated tax she had asked me to handle in July. I paid my mother's taxes on my birthday. That was the year I stopped hoping. The next morning, I opened Instagram before I meant to. There was a photograph of my mother, Marion, and Ashley in Sonoma, arms around each other's shoulders. My mother had her head thrown back, laughing. Marion was closer to her than she needed to be, one hand on my mother's arm. The same posture she uses when she wants to be seen as the one everyone else circles around. Nobody had posted anything for me. Nobody had messaged. 62 comments under Ashley's story, and not one of them was my mother wondering, in public, where her daughter was. I remembered my grandmother then. I remembered her wrist on mine. At gate B14, watching Marion's hand on my mother's arm through the terminal glass, I remembered again. I opened the notes app on my phone and started writing. I wasn't planning to send it to anyone. I have never sent this list to anyone. I was making sure I could still read the numbers without my hand shaking. 8,500 Christmas 2019 envelope. 185,000 Roseville down payment. 22,800 my father's 2022 Toyota Camry, purchased through my card because his credit score had a hitch neither of them wanted to discuss. 12,000 October 2023 estimated tax. 38,600. 7 years of utilities and health insurance supplements that I had absorbed quietly because my mother had once said, in a way that wasn't quite a request, that they were living on a fixed income. $246,400 since I started at Cascadia. Not counting the wine, not counting the interest I would have earned on my savings if I hadn't been the quiet checking account for 2 adults who told me, without saying it, that my job was to keep them from falling. I had never expected thanks. I had expected a chair. In wine, we have a word for what happens when a cork ruins what's inside. Corked. The bottle looks perfect from the outside, sealed, labeled, still worth the price on the shelf. You don't know until you open it. Sometimes families do the same to their children. Quietly, expensively, without ever offering an apology. I had been corked for a decade and told the wine tasted fine. My phone rang. It wasn't Marion. It was my Uncle Roland from Portland. Roland Kendrick is my mother's younger brother. He retired from Boeing 18 months ago after 32 years of building engines that were not allowed to fail. He calls me every 6 months, on average. He does not call in April. He does not call before 9 in the morning, because in Roland's world, that is uncivilized. "Kid," he said, "are you at the airport?" I told him I was. There was a long enough pause that I heard the coffee maker running in his kitchen. "Your mother's checking account has been bleeding for 4 years," Roland said. "It isn't you." I moved my coffee to the small table beside the window and sat down. "When I helped her set up online banking at Thanksgiving," Roland said, "I saw the transfers. I've been sitting on it. I wasn't going to make anyone's Christmas harder. But something feels off about this trip, and I want you to hear it from me before you get on that plane." He told me the number. 38 separate transfers. $68,000 over 4 years from my mother's checking to Marion's account. Sometimes $1,200, sometimes $2,200. Always with the memo line left blank. I did the arithmetic in my head. $17,000 a year. Not a business. not tuition. Marion doesn't have children in school. Marion's daughter, Ashley, has a salary at a Michelin restaurant in Napa that pays her enough to cover herself. I asked Roland what he thought. I think, he said, that a real estate agent in Sacramento does not spend $17,000 a year in unmarked cash unless she is trying to hide the receipts. And I think you know something you haven't been telling